this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I am going to walk you through how to make the Eloise sweater. Specifically the Eloise baby sweater, although the instructions for the Eloise girls sweater are pretty much the same. Just the stitch counts are different. And in this video I'm not going to give the specific stitch counts because the sweater does come in so many sizes. For the exact pattern you'll need to go to mooglyblog.com, look up the Eloise baby sweater, and you can get the finer points there. Here I'm just going to demonstrate how it all comes together. Now here's the finished sweater in the 6-month size. You can see that it buttons here at the top, and it's a cardigan. This is the inside, here's the outside. You can tell the right side from the wrong side because on the right side we have these ridges that are formed by working in the back loop only, and on the inside it's pretty smooth. Now the way you make this skirt, or the way you make this sweater I should say, is you start at the skirt. And you actually start with these are the first 2 rows of the entire sweater. And then you build up around until you have as many rows for the skirt as called for in the pattern. Then you turn it to the side and work along this edge to start working up for the yoke. Then later you add the sleeves. Let me show you some of how it's done. Okay, this sweater is made with Lion brand yarn Wool Ease in worsted weight and a J-hook. You can use, of course, different colors. I just happen to like these colors for this demonstration, although let me pull the original sweater back in here a minute. You can see there's actually 5 total colors used, gray for the main color, and then a red, orange, blue, and green for the stripes. Today I'll just demonstrate with the gray and the red to give you an idea of how it comes together. Now here I've got the first 2 rows. These are just a simple double crochet. I start with a foundation double crochet stitch, but if you prefer to chain and then double crochet across, that's fine, as long as you have the number of stitches as called for the size you're making. So after I've finished, let's pretend here, just finished the 2nd row. This is where a lot of people get confused. You're going to pull up a loop and pull the hook right on out, just as if you were going to say put this down and walk away or use the hook for something else. But what helps at this point is if you take a stitch marker and stick it in that loop so that it won't come back out. Again, just as if you were walking away, this is a good idea. Now we're going to turn it as if we were going to work again with it, but this is where we're going to pick up our first stripe color. I'm just going to use the red here. I've got some wound around the skein. Let me pull off a bit here to work with. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to join with a slip stitch, and we're going to join to the BLO, which is the back loop only of the 3rd stitch of the row. So if we look at those top V's, we can count 1, which is where our last stitch is coming out of there, 1, 2, 3. We're going to go into the back loop only, just like so. And I have a separate tutorial for back loop only on my YouTube channel and on my blog if you need it. And join with a slip stitch just means you stick your hook in there and slip stitch. And at this point I like to pull that tail down real tight so that it doesn't really look like a whole slip stitch there. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to slip stitch right in that same back loop, like so. And because I pulled that first one so tight, it's not a problem. Then, following the directions, I am going to, actually I have to check the directions, it's been a while since I've made it here. Let's see, so I've joined with the back loop only to the 3rd stitch of the round, or of the row. Then, working in the back loop only, I slip stitched in the same stitch, and then the next stitch. Then I am single crochet in the next 7 in this case because I am making the 6-month size. So again, this is just in the back loop only. Let's see here, I may have lost count, but that feels like 7. Let's count them here. We've got our first 2 slip stitches, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, one more single crochet. Then I'm going to half double crochet in the next 7. Again, continue to work in the back loop only. I'm tapping you here. Sorry about that. That's the stitch marker there hitting my table. Hold that up out of the way here. Let's see. So we've got 2 slip stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 single crochets. Got 5 half double crochets so far. Let's do 2 more. And then we're going to finish out the row with double crochets. And by graduating our stitches here, let me pick that end up again. By graduating our stitches and making them gradually taller, we're going to do the reverse coming back for the next row. And that's how we create the look of that pleat that we get in the sweater. Let me pull up some more yarn here. Okay. And remember, we still have that working loop of the gray there. We don't want to cut the gray unless we need to, because that will allow us to have a lot fewer ends to weave in at the end here. However, if you were making all your insets, all your stripe colors the same, you might want to try and carry that along the inside of the sweater too. However, when I make it, I like to make all the stripes a different color or repeating in a pattern, so I tend to cut the inset, the accent colors. All right, so we have finished row 3. So I'm going to turn, and here you have a choice. You can chain 2 and double crochet in the first stitch, not counting the chain 2 as a stitch. You can chain 3, count it as a stitch, and start double crocheting in the next one, or you can work a chainless starting double crochet. Whichever of these methods you use, it's up to you. When I wrote the original pattern, I used a chainless starting double crochet, so that's what I'll do here. Again, there's a separate tutorial for that on the blog and on my YouTube channel if you need it. Then I am going to basically work the previous row in reverse. I will double crochet for a total of, I believe it is 9 stitches. And in this case, I am not working in the back loop only. The back loop only is just when you work the accent color into the main color while making the skirt, to help kind of give that pleated look. All right, coming along here. We've got our 9 double crochets, so we'll start our 7 half double crochets. And so we've got those done here. Looks like that's the last one. We'll do 7 single crochets. And again, the number of stitches here is going to vary depending on what size you're making. I'm making the smallest size, so those are the numbers I'm following. If you need to print this pattern out and circle the numbers that apply to the size you're making, that can be a great way to help yourself keep track. Put just a little bit more red yarn up here. Okay, so I've come back down, and I'm going to let me make sure I've got my 7 single crochets. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got 1 more single crochet, and then reading the instructions here, there we go. I am going to slip stitch in the next stitch, which is the slip stitch the second slip stitch of the previous row. It's going to be hard to get your hook in there, but take your time and do it. Slip stitch, and then that first slip stitch we made that's in the stitch we joined to, that's going to remain unworked. So at this point, let me grab my scissors. We're going to go ahead and cut that red yarn, not the gray one, just the red one. There we are. All right, and I will finish that off. I will weave those ends in later for the red, or you can weave it as you go, it's up to you, but for the purpose of the video, to keep things going, I'll just leave them hanging. And you can see we've already made our first insetted stripe there. So now what I'm going to do is go back to that stitch marker, take it out. I'm going to reinsert my hook in that stitch, and I like to do it back from the way I came to make sure I've got it the right way around. When you pull the working end, the part that moves up and down should be in front of the hook. So I know I've got it the right direction, so I'm ready to turn. And now what I'm going to do for row 5 is I'm going to, again, I can do the chain 2, work a first double crochet, chain 3, count it as a double crochet, or a chainless starting double crochet. Whichever method you like to use to start a row of double crochets, it's up to you. So I will do a chainless starting double crochet because that's the method I like to use. Then I am going to double crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch, because that counts as the first one of this row. and then I am going to double crochet in the back loop of each stitch to the end. Now when you come to this slip stitch, that can be kind of tricky. Just do your best to find that top V there, go into the back loop. And you can see we've gone from working into row 2, then we made rows 3 and 4. Now we're going to start working row 5. We started it in row 2, we're going to work on across. That one was into row 3. The next stitch will be into the slip stitch that ended row 4. Let's see here. I might actually be skipping one here. It's important to count your stitches and keep track. Okay. Well, you get the idea. You don't need to see me struggling for that stitch, but the point is you work into the back loop only of each stitch across. And again, that helps preserve the look of the pleats. Let's see, pull up some more of the gray yarn here. And whatever number you started with for stitches, for instance, if you're making the 6-month size, you started row 1 with 27 stitches, that's how many stitches you should have in this row. Okay, so you get the idea. On down across. Then we'll turn and make another row just like row 2. And I think you can already see how that starts coming together. Let me see. Here's back to where we started here. There we are. You can see, just the same. Row 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 coming across there. 6 comes back across. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the yoke. Let's pretend I have made all the way across the skirt, and the number of rows and the number of stripes for each size is going to be different. But after you've made all of those rows for the stripes, then it's time to turn and begin the yoke. What you're going to do is when you get to the end of here, you're going to turn the skirt 90 degrees this way. This is the edge that you want to work into for the yoke. Now, depending on how many rows you worked, the size that you made, you're going to have a different number of ends to work into here. However, it's not 1 to 1 or even 2 to 1. You're actually going to be increasing a little bit here to create the body. So you're going to work a row of single crochets across this edge. Remember where they've got the wide end of the stripe, that's the bottom of the skirt. So you're going to work single crochets right across that top edge there. Then go ahead and follow the directions from there. I want to tell you for the yoke, a good video to watch is how to crochet yokes and top-down sweaters, which you'll find again on the YouTube channel or on mooglyblog.com. It's the exact same technique, only worked backwards. One point that does tend to confuse people a little bit is the armpit row. Let me move that out of the way here. And remember, let me turn over to the back here. It's a little easier to see, I think, as you're working up. Because remember, you work a single crochet row here, and then you start working double crochets rows moving up. However, right away, you're going to have a row where you work a bunch of stitches and then chain, skip some stitches, and then work some more. That chain becomes the top of the shoulder right here. And the stitches you skip become the bottom of the armpit, which is what the bottom of the sleeve attaches to. But basically, that is a pretty good overview of the Eloise baby sweater. I know I didn't walk you through the whole thing. That would be hours and hours to show you every last stitch. But I hope this gives you a really good idea. Again, be sure to watch the top-down yokes video to give you an idea on construction. Even though this one is worked bottom up, it's the exact same idea, only instead of increasing the corners, you'll be decreasing to come to the neckline. And that's all there is to it. So thanks so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our channel if you like what you see.